Okay, yeah, it shouldn't be too far away.
All right.
So I noticed on the meeting notes that it was saying in your discussion probably today, I think it had working on an example deployment, Argo workflow. Is that talking about our group, or is someone else doing that in parallel?
No, that's your group.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I was just going to say it would be nice to collaborate, but it is us, so that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, let me fix it up here.
I've just made a new entry for today's meeting as well.
Yeah, I just added on. For some reason I just got signed out. Let me get signed back into that doc.
Sure.
All right, let me just clarify that. All right. So today is the July 22nd Ortelius architecture for the Australian time zone. While we're waiting for Amit to come on to the Zoom, I'll just kind of review some of the stuff that happened at the morning's meeting. So the service catalog is moving along really well. Utkarsh has found stuff that we can use for rendering Swagger into the UI. I found one for markdowns that are readmes that are markdowns. And also Utkarsh has found been working on the CVE and license scanning using Cyclone. That one, he basically wrote a Go program to kind of interface with Docker and run commands inside of the Docker image for us to grab some files out of there, basically the results of the scanning stuff. So, and that will then, the next step will be to push that into the Ortelius database. One of the things that that program will eventually just keep on being added on. So if we need to add on a new scanner that we want to interact like with Trivy or start scanning Node.js, that one will evolve to handle those things. And we'll be shortly we'll be getting into testing and documentation updates for the service catalog. So that's kind of what's happened from this morning's meeting in the States. So did Amit join?
Yep. He's here, yeah.
All right.
Hey folks. Sorry, I just stepped out of the shower.
No problem. So
Yeah,
I'm going to throw it over to you, Brad, and kind of give us a rundown on what we got going on from your side.
Yeah, sure. Amit, do you want to? You did most of the work, well, all of the work, because I was busy moving.
No.
Do you want to give us an update about how we've changed from the app of apps into the application sets?
Absolutely. Let me just pull up the application set and share my screen. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see the Kubernetes repo, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we have converted from app of apps to application set. Application set is still not a GA. It's going to be released in Argo CD 0.2. So currently I have pulled from the dev repo, but it works like a charm. The advantage of application set is you don't need to really create an app of apps, and you directly just create an application set. You create a matrix, and what the matrix does is you can basically say what applications you want to install and what's the matrix of all the systems you want to install it on. So similar to production, I would have this is basically a list, right? So you can have production, dev, staging, so on and so forth.
And where where does that matrix live? Does it live in its own repo, or is it just live within Argo itself?
So the matrix is up to you where you want to put it. You can create that matrix. So I've currently created this matrix within a Kubernetes repo. So whatever is Kubernetes infrastructure, I put into the matrix, and that matrix basically then multiplies whatever is there here with how many other elements are here. So assume I create this, another list of devs, and that will work completely fine instead of production. And this will just keep getting multiplied.
And does that, in terms of, like when we use Helm file, we have the different folders for different environments.
Yeah.
How does the different values work in that scenario, if you understand my question?
Yes. So the different values work on the basis of folder structure. So what it does is you need to give it a repo URL and a repo path. So what I've done is I've given it a repo URL and a repo path. So the repo path is kubeinfra backup. So it goes into backup. It goes into sees that it has one chart, which is called Velero. So it applies only one chart. Now, in the case of CI/CD, I have more than one chart, which is Argo events, Argo rollouts, and Argo workflows. So it applies all three of them. Each of them also have this thing called production Argo events values. So this can also be similarly. Let me show you what I mean, which this can also be dev. Now, the difference between the two and the advantage of having this is now based on the cluster name. So what I've done is the destination Helm value files is taking cluster name, the path.base name, hyphen values.yaml. So what that means is it's going to say production hyphen, in the case of this particular chart, it's going to say production hyphen Argo workflows hyphen values.yaml, which is why it picks up the production YAML file values. And that's how it ensures that it kicks off that particular.
So just to repeat.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you guys see.
Right.
Okay, just so I understand. So the cluster called div will correspond to the prefix before the dash of the thing, correct?
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So if I create something called dev here, this will be dev hyphen Argo hyphen workflows hyphen values.
And that picks up and that understands that
yes.
folder structure there, because technically dev is your cluster name, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
So that's sorry. Go ahead.
So what happens if dev? Let's say they forgot, like there's no QA out there, but you define a QA cluster. Does it throw an error, or does it fall back to like a different like base name, like a default?
No, it'll throw an error. So what it will do is something similar to this. So this is more specific to Argo workflows, but what it'll do is it'll create an app and it'll say sync error.
Okay. All right. So there's in this, there's really no default. You're going to have to name out all of your variables that you're going to use in your file names.
Yes. So now there is one other option. Instead of using a list like this, you have the option of using a list within the application set. And what I mean to say is, let me quickly pull that up. Sorry. Not this. Sorry, guys. So I just showed you all one of the generators, right? Which is list. Now you have two generators, which is there's another called Git generator. Now the way the Git generator works is one Git generator I showed you was how it pulls up the software, but there is another type of Git generator where you put the cluster config within this particular folder structure. So I'm not done that right now, but if you do that, what happens is it basically takes up this config.json, and the config.json will have your cluster name in this format. So you can adjust it again within the Git repository and delete a folder or add a folder, etc. It is mostly the same. It's just that here they have added additional variables to that particular configuration. That being said, it's also possible to add variables here, like I've done.
Okay.
But no, there is no default value to answer your question.
Okay.
What's the just for my understanding, what were the decision, like why did you make the decision to use this one? Like is there any pros or cons, or what were you thinking?
No, this was just I will in the long run go down this route because I think it's better to have a completely other folder. But for now, to basically ensure that it's working. So I had one of the issues I faced was Helm has not updated its CRDs. So I had to go and update the CRD within Helm separately, independently. So there was additional time I ended up spending on that, which is why I just found that for now I'll just go down this route.
Sure. Yeah, I was just wondering. Cool.
Yeah.
And then on the, if you can go back to the application set. Now, if you scroll up a little bit, let's say like database was in one Git repo and the DNS infra is in a separate repo. How is that? How's that handled? Do you have multiple of the Git generators then, like on line 10?
So you mean, no, in that case, I would create multiple application sets. And what you can do is have one application set which configures a particular type of application. So for example, I would have a separate application set which only installs database, a separate application set which only sets up anything else, any other type of application. Because
I want it all tied together. That's the part that you're losing me on.
So you want it all to lie in one single application set.
Right, but coming from different repos where, so, you know, in the trend is to go to poly repos instead of mono repo. So the Helm charts for the database are going to be in the database repo, and the security, in this case, like the DNS infra, will have its Helm chart over in its repo, you know, along with the source code. So, you know, you have the source code plus your Helm chart in a repo, and then, you know, and you have one for each microservice set up that way. Is there a way within a single application set to bring it all together, or?
So you can use multiple Git, but then matrix generator gets disabled. So matrix is enabled only for one Git with one list. So you can do two things. You can have two application sets, one mainly for your Kubernetes infrastructure, and you can have a second application set, which will be multi-repo setup, but then you won't be able to use this particular format where it multiplies the application generator with the elements. So matrix is enabled only for one Git with one particular list additional.
With the other one that you were showing us with the folder structure, can you point multiple application sets to those clusters?
No,
you know what I mean?
No, it's the same thing. The issue is the same with matrix. So currently matrix has enabled only one to one. multiplication, but in the future, most probably they would enable multiple. For now, I can test it out and verify whether that's true, but I will have to get back to you on that one.
Yeah, because it'd be interesting, because basically the way it's defined now, you still have an app of apps repo. You have all your Helm charts in a single repo, and that you're just doing a matrix against that. You're minimizing the, how you're driving it through the matrix, but you still have a lot of files that you have to manage. Okay. So it'd be interesting to see if you're able to pull that from multiple repositories at the matrix level.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to, basically this will have to be replicated.
Yeah, exactly.
And so as far as I have understood currently how these Git repositories work, it's not currently available, but in the future, so there is another. So they have not even published about the matrix here. They have published about the matrix only within the repository itself, which is.
We can reach out to them on the CNCF Slack channel as well to ask this question too. Might save us some time.
Yeah. So this is the matrix format that they have enabled. One is cluster kit and list kit. So I implemented list kit, but you can also do the cluster kit, which is basically the Git repository and specify the cluster or whatever else. So currently they have not said that they have enabled that, but I can test that out and get back to you.
That'd be awesome if you could do that, because, just from what I'm seeing is we're still going to end up with an app of apps, and then you end up having, if you have shared microservices across multiple applications or products, if you have a shared microservice across multiple products, that, being able to have that chart in one place will definitely simplify things instead of having the same chart in multiple app of app repos.
I get a point. Okay. Yeah, let me look into that and test that out and let you all know whether that works or not.
Awesome.
Cool.
Great work. This is awesome. I imagine this would take a little time, like learning and failing and learning.
Yeah, I think the main thing was the Helm issue. So the main issue what I faced was Helm Artifact Hub basically did not update the CRDs within its repository. So when I tried to install, even though I said use the latest version, it wouldn't just pull it out. And that's because the CRD would still be applied of the old version. So that was the only part which mainly took a lot of time and confusion. But then once I figured that out, it was good. I think that's it from my end.
All right. I just want to put an example in there. If you could jump over, let me throw this in the chat real quick. So I'm just trying to add on that example of how you did the variable substitution.
Yeah.
You'll see it right at the bottom of today's comments.
As first step, the team discussed language. Okay, maybe I'm looking at the wrong one.
It is in the description. Here, let me share my screen. I'll show you where I'm.
Yeah, that'll be easier.
So right in here, I just want to give, if you can cut and paste in the example from the application set of the source code.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I got the variable names right.
Oh, that's yeah. So that is incorrect. The cluster is correct. The second one is part dot name.
I can copy and
Part
paste
dot,
it if you want.
I'll just copy and paste it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So I give a valid example.
Yeah. So part dot base name is compulsory and cluster would be compulsory because both of them are standard variables.
Right. All right, perfect. And from last time, there was some discussion on the Slack channel, on the Discord channel about Argo workflow.
Yeah.
Do you foresee Argo workflow coming into any of the integration that we need to do with the Ortelius, or is it really just like setting up a pipeline, run once you get into the whole GitOps world and you hit go, it's going to go off and perform a series of steps? That's my understanding. Is that correct?
So yes, it does go and perform steps in terms of installation, but Argo workflow is more like running pipelines. So for example, if you want to call during your whole process, you also want to go and call an S3 bucket, or say it's a workflow where you are calling a cloud function, which then in turn triggers another cloud function, and that generates a file, and you want to upload that into an S3 bucket or something to that effect, that
Right.
you would use workflow for. So it replaces your CI/CD pipelines, where it makes it completely Kubernetes native.
Got it. Oops. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. By next week, I would probably implement Argo workflow. So I've already started working on Argo workflow, Argo events, and the Argo rollouts. So rollouts, most probably people might not use if they go down the service mesh route, but workflow, I foresee a high chance of using it, unless they just prefer to stay to whatever CI/CD pipeline they're currently using.
Yeah,
So that would be the question.
I actually did have a customer that was using rollouts, and they switched over from Helm to rollouts because of the blue-green capabilities that rollouts had.
Yeah.
So there are some extra features around rollouts that are take it to the like Helm to the is like Helm on steroids is what I could gather what rollouts are.
So the difference is if you're going down the service mesh route, though, you don't need rollouts, because rollouts does pretty much the same thing your service mesh will do, which is blue-green, canary deployments. All those things are service mesh capable. Your service mesh will take care of it. So if you go down that route, then you won't really need rollouts. But if you don't want a service mesh, or you don't need a service mesh, rollouts works perfectly well, and it adds a lot of benefits, as you said.
Got it. And then on the events over workflow, I think events would be my preference on doing that one over workflow, just because Ortelius is going to hook into the event engine there. I'm getting notified that basically on the webhook side, getting notified that a deployment has completed.
Okay. So then I've already set up Argo events. I just need to play around with it more. I've not worked a lot with it.
Yeah, and the ones that we'll be setting up will be around a webhook. So we would provide a webhook from the Ortelius side that will expose over to Argo events. And then what we'll really need to see is what the payload looks like that the events are throwing over to us, and see if that has the data that we need to perform actions upon.
Sounds good.
You know,
That's what
basic
we talked
things.
about a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
basic things like what's the cluster name? You know,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's there, but we need to double check it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you gonna
That
say,
sounds
Brad?
good.
Oh yeah, no, I was just saying, yeah, we were speaking about that quite a while ago about the events part. It's exciting that we're coming up to that part, I think.
Perfect. Awesome job.
Yeah, this is great work. I imagine you had some late nights on it, working this out. It wouldn't, especially how it's just coming out as well. It would be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. So like, I think this is the only time where I realized the value of customize versus Helm, because the Helm files or artifacts were not updated up to the latest, the same way how the manifest files were. So that's when I realized the value of being on, say, customize versus Helm would be that customize directly uses the latest manifests. You don't need to go down this route where you are updating your chart and all that.
Right. So you have because your customized doesn't have it isn't based on templates, right? It'll allow.
Yeah, it's not based on templates. It's directly based on Kubernetes manifest. So you can directly reference your latest manifest without really any modification. Versus the charts, I would have to create my own chart, which is what I did. I updated the CRD and more specific. I had to tell that before you run the Helm, you basically update the chart. I can show you what I did more specifically.
Okay.
Share my screen. Desktop 3. So you will notice that I've added this additional hook to update the CRD. So you will have to go and update the CRD, and the reason for that is,
Sorry, can I just look at the code just like for another 30 seconds? Just a simple.
Sorry.
Yeah, it wasn't enough. Okay, so we're saying hooks on an application set.
So this is in the Helm chart, right?
Yeah. So this is a Helm file. I normally use the initial installation. I use Helm file, and post that I use Argo for everything. So Helm file at the beginning requires a couple of tools, which is external DNS, so that Argo has an external URL. Cert manager, because without certificates, it doesn't let you spin up a load balancer. That is a Google issue. Along with that, application set and Argo CD. These are the 4 things I had to install. And prior to that, seal secrets, which takes care of secrets or AWS secrets and everything else. So I install my secrets encrypted format within seal secrets, whether it's my SSH credentials to connect to GitHub or my AWS credentials to create the DNS record.
Right.
And another thing that we did as well is we hooked the Argo up to an Azure load balancer and got that working as well.
Nice.
A little bit of work there. So Azure does it a little bit different to GCP. So we worked out how to do, it's called internal load balancer. Do you have that one in there, Emma, or is that in my repo?
I think that's in your repo, but I have your repo.
Okay.
Let me.
Yeah. We'll just quickly show Steve, just for understanding, because I guess that
and
still was a piece of work.
What's the Azure? What was it called? The Azure internal load balancer?
Yeah, we'll quickly show you now. So
this is the one that it's called.
Yeah.
Add-on HTTP application routing.
Yeah.
Oh, so, okay.
That's because we took the internal one out. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we first tried to use the internal one, but the internal required API gateway, and we were like, no, that's too expensive. What's the other option? And that's when we found this. because API gateway gets very expensive very fast from what I've
Yeah.
noticed.
Right.
It's not quite there as well. But this one as well, don't be scared about the HTTP. It's still using HTTPS.
Yeah. So internally, it
well.
is already HTTPS. It's pretty much similar to what I've shown you. It just shows HTTP here because once it hits the load balancer, it basically goes down the HTTP route. But that is post the load balancer. So all the way till the load balancer, it's all HTTPS.
Got it.
So we can implement that into the Ortelius cluster as well if you want. If you want to use the same thinking we have around protecting Argo from the ingress if the ingress fails.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to do.
Okay, so we will go ahead and implement this. So the reason I'm doing it separately is first I want to ensure that what I'm doing is the right direction, and post that I would implement within Ortelius.
Perfect.
And this is what I was talking about. So Argo has its own Helm charts, and basically the CRD, as you can see, is 2 months ago versus the CRD I'm currently using is 6 days old. And there's no way within a Helm chart you can just except for this, obviously. But this is the way you reference, use this separate CRD for this thing. And I had to go and dump this particular value under my space here. Okay. Value is common, Argo CD.
And can I see that file, please?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the whole CRD. It's quite a huge file. It's basically replacing this current CRD, which is there.
Got it. And that one came off of the dev branch of Argo.
Yes.
Got it.
It's, as I said, it's not yet released, and they're going to be releasing it by end of this month. I was actually chatting with a couple of guys on Argo, so till then we'll have to wait. And even after then, I might probably have to create a pull request to this particular Helm file so that I update the CRDs. Otherwise, I'm not sure when it'll get done, because most probably, since it's a community-based one, someone has to raise it.
Right. I'm glad you were able to figure that out, because that's what those things like that, you just bang your head against the wall.
It's quite impressive, actually.
Yeah.
It's very impressive.
Awesome. Well, looking really good. Making some great progress here.
I think
so for next week, I'm guessing Argo events would be a priority, and having multiple Gits within a single application set.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I'll test that out. And if that doesn't work, I will chat on the channel to see what other options we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just taking a couple notes here. Perfect.
I think we're a few sessions away from really understanding what we need to do.
Yeah, and that's going to be the after we wrap up the investigation, the next part's going to be, where are we going to hook in Ortelius to, since Ortelius has this metadata that it can push into the Git repos. Are we going to be interacting with a single repo, the app of apps repo, or are we going to be interacting with multiple poly repo structure that we need to deal with? That's going to be kind of the driving forces on where we need to interact with the Git repos, and then what in those repos are we going to be updating? When we go to deploy a microservice, we know what the microservice got built over on this poly repo, so it has its own build and push out to the registry. Now we have a new image tag that we want to deploy. Are we going to apply that to a branch in that repo, like a dev branch or a CI branch? Or are we going to take and apply that new image tag over to the app of app repo in the values file there? So those are some of the things that we need to, that will come out once we finish up the investigation, is how this is going to drive. And then we get into also the pipeline process. As we go, if you have a new image tag, I can see applying that to the dev values file. But how do we handle QA, staging, and production? Do we come back around, and is that an automated pipeline process using the Argo workflow? So we have a little bit more work to do. I think that you guys are making awesome progress on the investigation, understanding it. And then when we start asking more of the questions like I just posed, I think we'll be able to answer them pretty easy.
But I think in the long run, we'll have to find a process where the pipeline starts making changes to the repository. And the reason for that is that's the only way. If success, then make a change to the repository. If failure, then skip. Because otherwise, there's always going to be someone who has to manually go and change those values.
Yeah, and that's the thing we want to avoid is, having people edit all these files. And I can see where the application sets are going to definitely help. With the matrixing capabilities, but we want to minimize human interaction, because if you have 150 microservices and you have 10 teams moving them, doing updates and changes multiple times a day, you can't have a process that's manual. It's just not feasible to scale it.
Yeah, I completely agree. The one slightly simpler solution to some of it is you have two value files. One is a common value file and one is environment specific. So anytime it succeeds in dev, post that value should move into common, where post that it doesn't matter. Like it can run manually into everything, and that's fine. So that is another solution to, if this route is not as feasible as we think, then we have that option as well.
Yeah. The funny part is you end up multiplying, you have your common one, then you have one for each stage of the life cycle. You just keep on multiplying these files, the number of files, which is, it's like we're getting every single line in your manifest file is a separate, in your Kubernetes manifest is a separate file in your Git repo. That's what it seems like it's turning into. It's like,
yeah. I completely understand.
But that's kind of the thought process I have from my side. Like I said, awesome job. The next couple to-dos should get us pretty close to be able to start pulling together and posing the questions of how we can integrate.
Yep. And then
absolutely,
will there be, what will the process be in terms of integrating? Will that be another sort of working group that comes together to collaborate, or would we look at doing that work as well?
It would probably be from both sides. So it'll probably come from the US and your side as well. And that one's gonna be a little bit trickier. It'll be more a collaborative design document that we'll need to pull together and kind of route it around a bunch of different eyes to make, in front of a bunch of people so we don't miss anything.
Yeah.
in the different use cases. That's why I'm glad you were able to get a hold of Sasha and Sergio with their use cases. That's where the use case is going to be really where we're able to know that we're solving the right problem.
Yeah, especially with the use case, because our ones are very simple. So having that massive scale is what we need to be working on. Yeah, we're quite excited about that.
Yeah.
That should be fantastic. Like I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah. So and what we probably would want to do is after we do the last, on the next couple of weeks, it's probably just record just the layout, kind of just something so we can post it out on YouTube, and we can have everybody in the group be able to review what you guys have done, and just give them a level set through a video.
Yep,
Sure.
that sounds good.
Yeah. So awesome. All righty, I have to actually run off to another meeting today. So I got one more tonight I have to do. So
what time is it over there, Steve?
It's 5:15.
5:15. Okay. Yeah.
So it's not a big deal. I just happen to have I'm the chief of our volunteer fire department, and in the village that I am that's in my district, one of the villages there, we're going to build a new senior center and fire station there. So we're tired of the old station and build a new one. Now we have to do all this community input. It's just like this. It's open source. Everybody gets to put their input in.
Yeah.
So I have that meeting coming up for everybody to provide their input on what's going to happen with that station. So I think it's going to be like a $3 million building. So it's going to be it'll be nice to have. But
for sure.
Alrighty.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Don't get too bored in your hotel room there.
No, I've got plenty of work to do.
All right.
Yeah. All right.
Do they let you go out of the door at all, or are you like not really?
We're pretty isolated. I mean, for me, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'll quite happily just sit on a keyboard for 2 weeks. But my wife is a different story. She with the baby as well. So
yeah.
They let you go once we get a blue band. It's called, because we've passed that first COVID test. They have one on day 1, one on day 3. Then they give you a blue band, and you have 2 sessions a day where you can go up onto the roof.
Oh, nice. Yeah. At least get some fresh air.
Yeah. So for me, it's fine, but it's going fast.
All right. Well, hang in there.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Looking forward to in 2 weeks. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, and then you could come. Yeah. Then you could come to KubeCon and get all exposed all over again.
Yeah, I'm trying to get vaccinated.
In New Zealand.
While I'm over here. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that makes sense, right? Might as well get vaccinated while you're over there, rather than coming back to Australia and waiting for another 5 months.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, you gentlemen. Have a good night.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks, folks. Take care.